Have you ever been so tired, not just in your body, but deep in your soul? The kind of tired where smiling feels heavy, where praying feels delayed, where waiting feels endless. Let me tell you something today. God sees that weariness. Not the version of you that the world applauds, but the quiet battles you fight when no one is watching. Today, I'm not here to give you empty motivation. I'm here to remind you of a truth that can lift your spirit. You are not forgotten. You are not unseen. You are not abandoned. God sees every tear you hide, every silent prayer you whisper, every moment you chose patience instead of giving up. And even when it feels like nothing is changing, something is happening. Because in the waiting, God is working. So today's message is simple, powerful, and life-changing. Pray, trust, wait. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Let me talk to the person who feels invisible. You wake up early, you go through your routine, you carry responsibilities. You handle pressure and still, it feels like nobody really notices what you're going through. People see your results, but they don't see your effort. They hear your laughter, but they don't hear the silent battles in your mind. They compliment your strength, but they don't understand the weight you carry every single day. But listen carefully. God sees what others miss. He sees the moment you almost gave up but didn't. He sees the message you typed and deleted because you didn't want to burden anyone. He sees the nights you stayed awake thinking, worrying, trying to figure life out while the rest of the world was asleep. You might walk into a room and feel unnoticed. Your work might go unappreciated. Your kindness might go unreturned. But nothing escapes the sight of God. Think about a mother who wakes up before everyone else in the house. She prepares food, manages the home, sacrifices her comfort, and at the end of the day, no one says thank you. To the world, it looks ordinary, but God sees every act of love that went unrecognized. Think about a student who studies hard, gives their best, but still doesn't get the results they hope for. Others might label it as failure, but God sees the discipline, the effort, the consistency. Think about a person working a job they don't love just to support their family. Every day feels heavy, every hour feels long, but they keep going anyway. The world may not applaud that struggle, but God honors it. And maybe that person is you. You've been holding it together when everything inside you felt like falling apart. You've been showing up when quitting felt easier. You've been giving your best even when you felt your lowest. And sometimes you wonder, does it even matter?
Yes.
It matters more than you think. Because God is not only looking at outcomes, He is looking at your heart. He is not only counting your success, He is counting your sincerity. Every honest effort, every quiet sacrifice, every moment you chose patience instead of anger, faith instead of fear, God sees it all. We live in a world that celebrates what is visible: achievement, status, recognition. But God operates in a deeper dimension. He values what is hidden, your intentions, your perseverance, your unseen struggles. There are people who get applause for things you've been doing silently for years. There are people who get recognition for half the effort you put in daily. And that can hurt, but don't let that make you bitter. Let it make you stronger. Because when God is your witness, you don't need the world's validation. Understand this. Just because people don't clap for you doesn't mean you're not making progress. Just because no one is praising you doesn't mean you're not growing. Some of the strongest people are the ones nobody celebrates. Some of the greatest journeys are the ones nobody sees. And God is watching all of it. He sees the discipline it takes for you to stay consistent. He sees the courage it takes for you to keep believing. He sees the strength it takes for you to smile when you're hurting. And at the right time, everything you've been carrying in silence will speak for itself. Nothing you do with sincerity is ever wasted. No effort goes unnoticed. No struggle goes unrecorded. So when you feel overlooked, when you feel underappreciated, when you feel like your efforts don't matter, remind yourself, I may not be seen by everyone, but I am seen by God. And that is enough. Because when God sees you, He doesn't just observe, He understands. He doesn't just watch, He prepares. He is preparing something for you that is bigger than the recognition you're chasing right now. So keep going, keep showing up, keep doing your part, even when it feels unnoticed. Because the same God who sees what others miss will make sure that nothing you've done in truth and patience goes unrewarded. Let me speak to the part of you that feels exhausted, not because you're weak, but because you've been strong for far too long. There's a kind of tiredness that sleep cannot fix. You can rest your body for hours and still wake up feeling heavy inside. That's the kind of weariness that comes from carrying responsibilities, expectations, disappointments, and silent struggles all at once. And somewhere along the way, you started believing a lie. If I feel tired, it means I'm not strong enough. But that's not true. Feeling tired doesn't mean you're failing. It means you've been fighting. Think about your daily life. You wake up with responsibilities already waiting for you. Maybe it's your job, your studies, your family, your finances, or even your own thoughts. You go through the day handling things one by one, solving problems, showing up for others, staying composed, even when inside you feel like breaking. You smile when people expect you to. You stay calm when situations test you. You keep moving when everything in you is asking for a pause. And at the end of the day, when everything quiets down, that's when it hits you, the exhaustion, the heaviness, the emotional weight you've been carrying all along. But let me tell you something powerful. That exhaustion is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence of your endurance. A weak person gives up at the first sign of difficulty. But you stayed. You kept going when things didn't make sense. You kept trying when results didn't show. You kept believing even when doubt was louder than hope. That is strength. Look at the people around. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is not the loudest, not the most confident looking, not the one with everything figured out. Sometimes the strongest person is the one who is quietly holding everything together. The one who cries alone but wipes their tears before facing the world again. The one who feels overwhelmed but still fulfills their responsibilities. The one who feels lost but continues to move forward anyway. Maybe that person is you. You've been strong in ways that no one has acknowledged. Strong when you chose patience instead of reacting. Strong when you stayed silent instead of arguing. Strong when you carried burdens without complaining. Strong when you kept going even though you felt empty. And now you're tired. Of course you are. You're not a machine. You're human. Even the strongest hearts need rest. Even the bravest minds need peace. Even the most patient souls need relief. But don't confuse your exhaustion with weakness. A soldier who returns from battle tired is not weak, they are brave. A person who works hard all day and feels drained is not weak, they are dedicated. A heart that keeps loving, trusting, and hoping despite pain is not weak, it is powerful. Your tiredness is proof that you've been giving your all. And sometimes the real strength is not in pushing harder, it's in allowing yourself to pause without guilt. You don't have to prove your strength by breaking yourself. You don't have to carry everything alone. Strength is also in admitting, I need a moment. Strength is in saying, this is hard, but I'm still here. Strength is in continuing, even if it's one small step at a time. In daily life, we often compare ourselves to others. We see people who look like they have everything together, and we think, why am I struggling so much? Why am I so tired? But you don't see their full story, and they don't see yours. Everyone is carrying something, and your journey is unique. The fact that you're still standing still, trying, still holding on, that says more about your strength than any success ever could. So instead of criticizing yourself for feeling tired, honor yourself for how far you've come. You didn't quit. You didn't give up. You didn't let your struggles define you. You're still here, and that matters. So if today you feel weary, don't see it as a sign to stop believing in yourself. See it as a reminder that you've been strong and you still are. Rest if you need to. Pause if you must, but don't label yourself as weak just because you're tired. Because the truth is, you're tired because you've been strong. There comes a moment in life when you feel like you've tried everything. You've thought it through, planned it out, asked people for advice, pushed yourself harder, and still something feels incomplete. That's usually the moment when people turn to prayer. Almost like a last option, a final attempt when nothing else seems to work. But what if we've been looking at it the wrong way? Prayer is not what you do when you run out of strength. Prayer is where your real strength begins. Think about your daily life. When something goes wrong, what's your first reaction? You stress, you overthink, you replay scenarios in your head. You try to control every outcome. You look for immediate solutions, quick fixes, instant answers. And when none of that works, you finally say, let me pray. Why do we wait until we're overwhelmed to connect with the one who can guide us through everything? Imagine starting your day differently. Before checking your phone, before worrying about your tasks, before letting the world rush into your mind, you take a moment. You speak to God. Not in perfect words, not in long speeches, but in honesty. Guide me today. Give me strength. God, help me handle what's coming. That simple act shifts something inside you. Because prayer is not about changing good days, it's about changing you. It brings calm to your chaos, clarity to your confusion, strength to your weakness. Look at the moments when you feel most anxious. Your mind is crowded, your heart is racing, and everything feels uncertain. Now compare that to a moment when you pause, close your eyes, and sincerely reach out to God. Even if your situation hasn't changed yet, something inside you does. You feel lighter. You feel heard. You feel grounded. That is power. Prayer is not just asking, it is aligning. It aligns your thoughts with patience. It aligns your heart with trust. It aligns your actions with purpose. In daily life, we rely on so many external things for support people, plans, money, opportunities. And yes, these things matter, but they are not always stable. People can disappoint. Plans can fail. Opportunities can disappear. But your connection with God, that is constant. When you treat prayer as your first response instead of your last option, you stop reacting to life, you start navigating it with intention. Think about someone facing a difficult decision. They can rush into it, guided by fear or pressure, or they can pause, pray, and seek clarity. That pause alone can prevent mistakes, bring wisdom, and open doors they couldn't see before. Think about someone dealing with anger. Without prayer, they might react instantly, say something they regret, damage a relationship. But with prayer, even a brief moment of reflection can soften their response and turn conflict into understanding. Think about someone chasing a goal. Without prayer, they may feel lost when things don't go as planned. But with prayer, they stay anchored. They don't just rely on outcomes, they rely on guidance. Prayer is not about escaping life's challenges. It's about facing them with a stronger mindset. And here's the truth. You don't need perfect timing, perfect words, or perfect conditions to pray. You could pray in the middle of your work. You could pray while walking, driving, sitting quietly. You could pray when you're happy, and you could pray when you're broken. Because prayer is not a performance, it's a connection. Sometimes people think, I'll pray when I feel ready. But readiness is not the requirement, sincerity is. Even if your words are messy, even if your thoughts are scattered, even if your faith feels small, still pray. Because it's not about how strong your words are. It's about how real your heart is. And when you make prayer a habit not just in crisis, but in consistency, you begin to notice something powerful. You don't panic the same way anymore. You don't fear the same way anymore. You don't feel alone the same way anymore. Because you know you are supported. Prayer becomes your source of stability in an unstable world. It becomes your quiet strength when everything feels loud. It becomes your anchor when life feels uncertain. So don't wait until everything falls apart to turn to God. Don't treat prayer like an emergency button you press only in crisis. Make it your daily strength, your constant companion, your first step, not your last. Resort. Because when you start with prayer, you don't walk into your day alone. You walk in with guidance, with calm, with strength that goes beyond your own. And that changes everything. There are moments in life when you desperately want clarity. You want to know where you're going, how things will turn out, and whether all your efforts will actually lead somewhere meaningful. You want a clear map, a guaranteed outcome, a visible path. But life doesn't always work that way. Most of the time, you're walking forward without seeing the full picture, and that uncertainty can feel uncomfortable, even frightening. This is where trust becomes powerful. Because real trust is not built when everything is clear. Real trust is built when things are unclear and you still move forward anyway. Think about your daily life. There have been times when you made a decision without knowing exactly how it would turn out. Maybe you chose a career path, started something new, or walked away from something that no longer felt right. You didn't have all the answers. You didn't see the full picture. But something inside you said, take the step. And you did. That step, that moment of moving forward despite uncertainty, that is trust. We often believe that we need complete understanding before we can feel confident. But the truth is, clarity often comes after movement, not before it. Imagine standing at the edge of a foggy road. You can't see the entire path ahead. You only see a few steps in front of you. Now you have two choices. You can stand still, waiting for the fog to completely clear, or you can take those few visible steps and trust that more of the path will reveal itself as you move. Life works the same way. If you wait until everything makes perfect sense, you may never move at all. Trust doesn't require full visibility. It requires courage. Look at the times when things didn't go according to your plan. At that moment, it may have felt like everything was falling apart. You questioned yourself. You felt confused. You wondered why things weren't working out the way you expected. But later, maybe weeks, months, or even years later, you realized something. That situation, which once felt like a setback, was actually leading you somewhere better. The opportunity you didn't get pushed you toward something more suitable. The delay you complained about gave you time to grow. The change you resisted helped you discover something new about yourself. In the moment, you couldn't see it, but in hindsight, it made sense. That's the power of trusting without seeing the full picture. In daily life, we often try to control everything. We want certainty in our plans, guarantees in our efforts, and immediate results for our actions. But control has its limits. No matter how much you plan, there will always be elements you cannot predict. And that's not a weakness of life, that's part of its design. Because if everything were predictable, there would be no growth. If everything were guaranteed, there would be no need for trust. Think about someone starting a new chapter in life, maybe a new job, a new environment, or a new goal. At the beginning, everything feels uncertain. They don't know exactly how things will unfold. They may doubt themselves. They may feel unprepared, but they keep going. They learn along the way. They adapt along the way. They grow along the way. And slowly, what once felt unfamiliar becomes comfortable. What once felt uncertain becomes manageable. That transformation only happens because they chose to move forward without having the full picture. Trust doesn't mean ignoring your doubts. It means not letting those doubts stop you. It means saying, I may not understand everything right now, but I believe there is a path for me. It means continuing your effort, even when results are not immediate. It means staying consistent, even when progress feels slow. It means holding on to hope, even when answers are delayed. And sometimes trust is quiet. It's not always loud confidence or bold declarations. Sometimes trust is simply waking up and trying again. It's choosing not to give up. It's taking one more step, even when you're unsure. You don't need to have everything figured out to move forward. You don't need perfect clarity to make progress. All you need is the willingness to take the next step, because often the path reveals itself gradually, not all at once. And one day you'll look back at this phase of your life, the confusion, the uncertainty, the questions, and you'll realize that even when you couldn't see the full picture, you were still being guided towards something meaningful. So don't let the lack of clarity stop you. Don't let uncertainty freeze you. Keep moving, keep trusting, keep believing that even if you don't see the whole path right now, you are still on the right one. Because sometimes the most powerful journeys begin with a single step taken in faith, even when the destination is still unknown. One of the hardest things a person can experience is waiting. Not just waiting with comfort, but waiting with uncertainty. Waiting when you've already tried. Waiting when you've already prayed. Waiting when you feel like you've done everything you possibly can, and still nothing seems to be moving. And in those moments, a quiet thought begins to grow in your mind. Am I wasting my time? That question can be heavy. Because when you're putting in effort, showing patience, and holding on to hope, you want to see progress. You want to see signs that something is changing. But here's a truth that can shift your entire perspective. Waiting is not wasting. It may feel like nothing is happening, but that doesn't mean nothing is happening. Think about your daily life. There are processes that take time, whether you notice them or not. A seed planted in the soil doesn't grow overnight. For days, even weeks, it looks like nothing is happening on the surface. But underneath, something powerful is taking place. Roots are forming, strength is building, life is preparing to emerge. If you judge that seed by what you could see in the early days, you might think it's not working. You might think it's a waste. But the reality is it's growing in a way you just can't see yet. Your life works the same way. There are moments when everything feels paused. Your goals seem distant. Your efforts don't seem to produce results. You look around and see others moving ahead, achieving, things progressing, and you start to question your own journey. But just because your progress isn't visible doesn't mean it's not real. Sometimes waiting is preparation. Think about a student who spends months studying for an important exam. During those months, there's no applause, no reward, no immediate result. It's just effort, consistency, and patience. To an outsider, it might look like nothing significant is happening. But when the results come, that long period of waiting suddenly makes sense. Think about someone building a skill or learning something new, improving themselves. Day by day, the change is small, almost invisible. But over time, those small efforts create a big transformation. The waiting period was not wasted, it was necessary. In your own life, there are things being shaped within you right now: your patience, your resilience, your mindset, your strength. If everything came instantly, you might not be ready to handle it. If success arrived too quickly, it might not last. Waiting teaches you how to value what you receive. It teaches you how to grow before you gain. It teaches you how to stay grounded even when things don't go your way. And yes, waiting can be uncomfortable. It can test your faith. It can challenge your confidence. It can make you feel like you're standing still while the world moves forward. But you're not standing still. You're developing. You're becoming stronger in ways that are not immediately visible. Think about the moments when you had to wait longer than expected. Maybe it was for an opportunity, a breakthrough, or a change in your situation. At the time, it felt frustrating. You questioned why it was taking so long. But later, when things finally fell into place, you realized something important. If it had happened earlier, you wouldn't have been ready. If it had come sooner, you wouldn't have understood its value. Timing matters. And waiting often aligns you with the right timing. In daily life, we are surrounded by a culture of immediacy. We want quick results, fast answers, instant success. We measure progress by speed. If something takes too long, we assume something is wrong. But not everything valuable comes quickly. Some of the most meaningful things in life require time, patience, and consistency. Strong relationships take time to build. Deep understanding takes time to develop. Real growth takes time to unfold. So if your journey feels slow right now, don't mistake that for failure. Slow progress is still progress. Delayed results are still results in the making. You are not being ignored. You are not being left behind. You are being prepared. And preparation often happens in the waiting. So instead of asking, why is this taking so long? Ask yourself, what is this time teaching me? Because every waiting period carries a lesson. Every delay carries a purpose. Every pause carries a hidden form of progress. And one day when things finally come together, when you reach that moment, you've reached that moment you've been hoping for, you will look back and understand. Nothing was wasted. Not your effort, not your patience, not your time. It was all part of the process. So don't lose hope in the waiting. Don't give up just because things are taking longer than you expected. Because sometimes the greatest things take time. And when they finally arrive, You'll realize that the waiting was not holding you back. It was preparing you to receive something greater than you imagined. There are moments in life when everything goes quiet. You pray and there's no clear answer. You wait and nothing seems to change. You hope, but the situation stays the same. And in that silence, a question slowly forms inside you. Is anyone even listening? That silence can feel heavy. It can make you feel distant, disconnected, even forgotten. You start replaying your efforts, your prayers, your intentions, wondering if they are reaching anywhere at all. But here is something deeply important to understand. Silence does not mean absence. Just because you don't hear a response doesn't mean there isn't one. Think about your daily life. There are many things working around you that you cannot see or hear, yet they are still happening. When you send a message from your phone, you don't see the signal traveling through the air, but it reaches its destination. When a seed is planted, you don't hear it growing, but it is developing beneath the surface. Not everything that is real is immediately visible or audible. In the same way, just because you don't receive instant answers doesn't mean nothing is happening. Sometimes silence is part of the process. Think about a time when you were waiting for something important, maybe a result, a decision, or an opportunity. During that waiting period, there was no feedback, no updates, no clear signs. It felt like you were stuck in a space where nothing was moving. But behind the scenes, things were being arranged, decisions were being made, paths were being aligned. You just couldn't see it yet. Life often works in ways that are not immediately obvious. There are moments when answers are delayed not because they don't exist, but because the timing isn't right yet. And that silence, it tests you. It tests your patience. It tests your belief. It tests your ability to stay steady even when you feel uncertain. In daily life, we are used to quick responses. We send a message and expect a reply within seconds. We ask a question and want an immediate answer. We make an effort and expect instant results. But not everything meaningful operates on that speed. Some things require stillness. Some things require time. Some things require trust in the unseen. Think about a person who is going through a difficult phase, maybe struggling financially, emotionally, or mentally. They try to stay positive. They reach out in their own way. They keep hoping for change. But days pass, weeks pass, and nothing seems to improve. That silence can feel discouraging. It can make them think that their efforts are pointless. But often what they don't realize is that something is being shaped within them during that time. Their resilience is growing. Their understanding is deepening. Their perspective is evolving. And when the change finally comes, they are not the same person anymore. They are stronger, wiser, and more prepared. Silence in that case was not empty. It was active. There are also moments when silence protects you. You may want something so badly, a certain opportunity, a certain outcome, and when it doesn't happen, you feel disappointed. You question why things didn't work out. But later you realize that what you were asking for might not have been right for you at that time. The silence was not rejection, it was redirection. In life, not every no answer is a negative. Sometimes it is a pause that saves you from something you cannot yet see. And sometimes silence invites you to grow closer, not through answers, but through trust. It teaches you to stay grounded even when things are unclear. It teaches you to continue your effort even when you don't see immediate results. It teaches you to rely on something deeper than just visible outcomes. You don't always need constant reassurance to keep moving forward. Sometimes the absence of immediate feedback is an opportunity to strengthen your inner stability. Think about how powerful it is to continue believing even when things are quiet, to keep going even when there is no applause, to stay patient even when there are no visible signs of progress, to hold on to hope even when answers feel distant. That kind of strength doesn't come from noise. It comes from silence. So when you find yourself in a quiet phase, when things feel still, when answers feel delayed, don't assume that nothing is happening. Remind yourself, I may not hear it, but something is unfolding. I may not see it, but something is being prepared. I may not understand it yet, but there is a purpose in this moment, because silence is not emptiness. It is often a space where unseen things are taking shape. And one day, when the answers do come, when clarity arrives, when things begin to make sense, you'll look back at that silent period and realize it was never absence. It was just a different kind of presence, one that was working quietly, patiently, and perfectly in ways you couldn't yet understand. There are seasons in life when it feels like nothing is happening. No big changes. Visible progress. No recognition. Just quiet days, routine moments, and a feeling that you are standing in the same place while everything around you seems to move forward. And in those moments, it's easy to think, maybe I'm not growing, maybe I'm stuck. But the truth is, some of the most powerful growth happens in the seasons where nothing looks impressive on the outside. Growth doesn't always come with noise. It doesn't always come with applause. It doesn't always come with visible results. Sometimes growth is quiet, hidden, unnoticed. Think about your daily life. Imagine someone who decides to improve themselves. They start waking up earlier. They begin working on their discipline. They try to control their reactions. They make small changes, nothing dramatic, nothing flashy. From the outside, nobody sees a big difference at first. There's no immediate transformation that people can point to. No one is clapping for them. No one is celebrating their effort. But inside, something is changing. Their mindset is becoming stronger. Their habits are becoming more consistent. Their patience is increasing. That's growth, and it's happening in silence. Think about how a building is constructed. Before the walls are painted, before the structure becomes visible, there is a foundation being laid underground. That part is not seen. No one admires it. No one takes pictures of it. But without that hidden foundation, nothing else would stand. Your life is no different. There are phases where you are building your foundation, your character, your discipline, your resilience. And those phases often feel slow, quiet, even frustrating, because you don't see immediate results. You don't get recognition. You don't feel like you're moving forward, but you are, in ways that are deeper and more important than what's visible. In daily life, we often compare ourselves to others. We see people achieving things, progressing quickly, getting attention, reaching milestones, and we start to question our own journey. Why am I not there yet? Why is my progress so slow? Why does it feel like nothing is changing for me? But what you don't see is their hidden phase, the time when they were also building quietly, struggling silently, growing without recognition. Every visible success has an invisible story behind it. Every strong person was once in a quiet season where they felt uncertain, unnoticed, and unsure. The difference is that they didn't stop during that phase. They kept going. They kept showing up. They kept improving, even when no one was watching. And that's what made the difference. Hidden growth requires patience, because you are working without immediate reward. You are improving without immediate recognition. You are becoming stronger without immediate proof. And that can feel difficult. But it's also what makes your growth real. Because when you grow in silence, you're not doing it for applause. You're not doing it for validation. You're doing it because you are committed to becoming better. That kind of growth is powerful. Think about a person learning to control their anger. At first, they react quickly, emotionally. But over time, they start pausing. They start thinking before speaking. They start choosing calm over reaction. No one may notice those small changes immediately. But inside, a huge transformation is happening. Think about someone working on their goals every day, studying, practicing, improving. Day after day, it feels repetitive. It feels like nothing is changing. But slowly, their skill improves. Their confidence builds. Their ability grows. That's hidden growth. And one day, that hidden work becomes visible. Suddenly, people notice the change. Suddenly, people admire the progress. Suddenly, it looks like success appeared overnight. But it didn't. It was built quietly over time in moments that no one saw. That's why you should never underestimate the phase you're in right now. Even if it feels slow, even if it feels slow, even if it feels unnoticed, even if it feels like nothing is happening, something is happening. You are becoming stronger. You are learning lessons. You are building qualities that will support you in the future. And when the time comes when your growth becomes visible, it will stand on a strong foundation. So don't get discouraged by the quiet seasons. Don't think that just because there is no noise, there is no progress. Some of the most meaningful changes happen without announcement. Some of the strongest versions of yourself are built in moments where no one is watching. Keep going. Keep improving. Keep showing up for yourself, even when it feels like it doesn't matter, because it does. And one day, the growth that was once hidden will become impossible to ignore. There comes a moment in life when you feel like you're at the edge. You've tried enough. You've waited enough. You've been patient enough. And something inside you whispers, maybe it's time to stop. That moment is dangerous, not because you're weak, but because you're closer than you think. The hardest truth to accept is this: people often give up right before things begin to change, not in the middle of the journey, not at the beginning, but at the edge when they are just one step away from a breakthrough. Think about your daily life. There have been times when you were working towards something, maybe a goal, a dream, or even a personal change. You put in effort day after day, but results were slow. Nothing seemed to be happening. You started to feel tired, frustrated, doubtful. And then you thought, what's the point? That feeling, that exact moment is where most people stop. But what if that moment is actually a turning point? What if the struggle you're facing right now is not a sign to quit, but a sign that something is about to shift? In life, breakthroughs rarely come when everything feels easy. They come after pressure, after persistence, after moments where you question whether you can keep going. Think about someone trying to improve their life. Maybe they're working hard to build something, studying, learning, growing, trying to change their situation. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. No results, no recognition, no visible success. It feels like effort without reward. But then suddenly something changes. An opportunity appears. A door opens. A result finally shows. And from the outside, it looks like it happened quickly. But it didn't. It was building all along. The effort, the patience, the struggle, it was all leading to that moment. That's why your breakthrough is often closer than it feels. Because progress is not always visible in real time. It's like heating water. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. The temperature rises slowly, quietly, without visible change. But at a certain point, everything shifts, the water begins to boil. That visible change didn't just happen at that moment. It was building the entire time. Your life works the same way. Every effort you make, every time you choose to keep going, every moment you refuse to give up, it's adding up, even if you can't see it yet. In daily life, we often underestimate how close we are to change. We measure progress by what we see, not by what is actually happening behind the scenes. So when results don't show immediately, we assume nothing is working. But sometimes everything is working, just not in a way you can see yet. Think about a person searching for an opportunity. They apply again and again, face rejection after rejection. It feels discouraging. It feels like nothing is changing. But each attempt is bringing them closer. Each effort is preparing them. And then one day they get that one chance, the one that changes everything. If they had stopped one step earlier, they would have missed it. That's how close breakthroughs can be. They don't always announce themselves. They don't always give signs. They often come quietly, unexpectedly after you've pushed through the hardest part. That's why you cannot rely only on how you feel in the moment, because feelings can be misleading. When you feel like quitting, it doesn't mean you should quit. When you feel like nothing is working, it doesn't mean nothing is happening. It might mean you are in the final stretch, the part that requires the most patience, the most belief, the most strength. And yes, it's hard because you're tired, because you've been waiting, because you've been trying for so long. But don't let temporary exhaustion make a permanent decision. Don't walk away from something that is still unfolding. Remind yourself of how far you've come. There was a time when you didn't have the strength you have now. There was a time when you didn't have the awareness you have now. There was a time when you might have given up much earlier. but you didn't. You kept going, and that means something. So instead of focusing on how far you still have to go, recognize how close you might already be. Because sometimes the moment you feel like giving up is the moment right before everything changes. One more step, one more effort, one more moment of patience. That's all it might take. So hold on. Stay consistent. Keep believing, even if it feels difficult, because your breakthrough is not somewhere far away in the distance. It might be right in front of you, just waiting for you to take one more step forward. There are times in life when the weight you carry doesn't just feel heavy, it feels personal. Not just challenges, but questions. Not just struggles, but confusion. You start asking yourself, why me? Why is this happening? Why does it feel like everything is against me? And slowly, without realizing it, your perspective begins to shift not toward hope, but toward doubt. But what if the struggle is not meant to break you? What if it's meant to build something inside you that comfort never could? Because here's something powerful to understand. Your struggle is shaping your strength even when it doesn't feel like it. In daily life, we often try to avoid discomfort. We want things to be easy, smooth, predictable. And there's nothing wrong with wanting peace. But growth doesn't always come through ease. Sometimes growth comes through pressure. Think about how strength is built in the physical sense. When someone exercises, they don't become stronger by avoiding resistance, they become stronger by facing it. The tension, the effort, the strain, that's what builds their strength. Now, apply that to your life. The challenges you face, the responsibilities you carry, the situations that test your patience, they are not just obstacles, they are resistance. And that resistance is shaping you. Think about a time when you went through something difficult. At that moment, it probably felt overwhelming. You may have felt lost, unsure, even frustrated. But later, when you look back, you realize something. You were not the same person anymore. You had more patience, more understanding, more strength. The struggle didn't destroy you, it developed you. But the challenge is, when you're in the middle of it, you can't always see that. When you're dealing with pressure in your daily life,